You gave away your ticket to a total stranger, a woman. There's nothing more important than this company. You're fired. Despite being fired by President Mr. Hill, I wasn't too shocked. In fact, I felt as I could see right through the company and was almost about to say, I'm better off without this kind of company, at that moment. Excuse me. A flustered Steve, the division manager, burst into the president's office. Mr. Hill, it's urgent. Our company is in the breaking news. What? Who is this? Mr. Hill and Steve's faces quickly turned pale. The person shown on the TV screen was, my name is Ken. I work as a salesperson at a company in New York that provides healthcare products and services. I guess there's another membership quota this month. Sales is a rewarding job, but that's really all there is to it. In other words, it's quite a challenging job. Our company-owned gym, launched with the concept of a gym anyone can easily access at any time, is expanding its number of locations successfully. Riding the recent health craze, and the company's performance is skyrocketing. For the world of gyms, which everyone feels hesitant to join, the idea of easy access for everyone was revolutionary. However, this aggressive business strategy had a critical flaw. What's going on with your gym? It's always so crowded I can never get on the machines. What do you mean the gym is fully booked this month? I joined because I heard I could go anytime. The problem is that there are too many members for a single gym. Lately, I've been receiving harsh complaints from customers who haven't been satisfied with the services. Yet from above, the only directive is to keep increasing membership numbers. Is the company planning to keep increasing the numbers even with things like this? I've been growing skeptical of the company's unwillingness to improve the situation. One day, I couldn't stand it anymore and decided to talk to Steve. Steve, I have something I need to discuss. What now, in the middle of this busy time? Make it quick. Yes, sorry. As Steve didn't even try to look up from his papers, I apologized briefly and started speaking. Steve, you are aware of the frequent complaints from customers, right? Yeah, what about it? I think we are increasing the membership numbers excessively. Shouldn't we first take the complaints seriously and then work on improvements? Ah, you don't get it, Ken. That's the problem with you young people these days. Steve cut me off and scratched his head irritably. Whatever we do, it's going to cost money. We need to boost sales before we can even think about implementing improvements. That might be true, but just focus on increasing membership numbers, you lower ranks. And make sure to pitch our ads to the media aggressively. Got it? Yes, I understand. It was like talking to a brick wall. But when the orders come from above, there's not much you can do about it. I swallowed my frustration and quietly returned to my duties that day. Following Steve's instructions, I aggressively pitched our gym to various media outlets. Thanks to those efforts, some unexpected good news came my way that day. What? Really? Yes, we would like your company to tie in with our station's program. The person on the phone was a PR representative from a TV station in Los Angeles. Luckily, they were considering not just a commercial, but also a tie-in with a TV show. Thank you. We would love to work with you. Thank you as well. Oh, and the program schedule is a bit tight. We'd like to meet as soon as possible to discuss this. When would you be available? Anytime is fine. I'll be there. Thank you. I will send you the schedule by email right after this. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Even after hanging up the phone, my hands were still trembling from the surprise and excitement. Alright, I can't just sit around. A tie-in with the TV station could be a major accomplishment. Trying to contain my excitement, I booked a flight to the TV station for the negotiations. Finally, the day of the negotiations with the TV station arrived. I arrived at the airport, ready to board my plane. There's still quite a bit of time until departure. Maybe I'm just overexcited, but I got to the airport earlier than I thought. I was thinking about going to a nearby coffee shop to review my presentation materials. Excuse me, are there any seats available on the flight to Los Angeles? I really need to get on the next flight. When I saw a woman desperately pleading at the airline counter. Please hold on a moment. The airline staff, looking confused, fiddled with the computer and showed a troubled expression. "I'm sorry, but all today's flights to Los Angeles are fully booked." "That can't be. There's still time until the next flight. I can put you on a waiting list for cancellations if you'd like." "Okay, please do that." After completing some quick procedures, the woman staggered away from the counter. I wonder if she's okay. I couldn't help but watch her as she slumped onto a bench, covering her mouth with her hand and shaking her shoulders, apparently crying. Next flight to Los Angeles. I glanced at the ticket in my hand. No, I can't possibly do that. I was here for work, after all. As I scolded myself for even considering it, I started walking towards the coffee shop. As I passed the bench where the woman sat, her phone rang. "Hello? Yes, it's fully booked, and I'm on the wait list." "He's still unconscious?" "Yes, I'll manage somehow and get back today." Yes. I could hear her trembling voice speaking to someone on the phone. Was it an accident or an illness? It seemed like someone important to her was in serious trouble. Ah, that's why she was so desperate. Stop thinking about it, I told myself as I shook my head to clear the clinging thoughts and walked past the woman. I bought a coffee and sat down to spread out my materials. I wanted to focus, but I couldn't stop thinking about the woman. There's nothing I can do anyway. As I mumble, I ask myself, is this really so? I have what she needs right now. The more I think about it, the more my heart beats and the more restless I become. Oh, geez. What the heck? I was unable to sit still and gulp down my lukewarm coffee, gathered my belongings, and left the coffee shop. I returned the way I came. The woman was still sitting on the same bench. "Excuse me." She looked up in surprise as I approached her. Her eyes, wide open, were moist with tears. "Are you okay?" I'm fine. She tried to put on a brave face, smiling through her distress. But her trembling lips betrayed her struggle. The slight lingering sense of I shouldn't get involved any further inside me burst and flew away at that moment. "What happened?" I saw you at the counter earlier. You were waiting for a ticket cancellation, right?" "Actually, my daughter was involved in a traffic accident and has been taken to the hospital." "Your daughter?" "I was here on a business trip from Los Angeles. I was supposed to fly back tomorrow, so I can't return immediately. I can't get to my daughter." She choked up and started to cry midway through her explanation. I quickly pulled out a tissue and handed it to her. "Please, use this." "Thank you, I'm a bit of a mess." "Can you stand?" Yes. "I have a ticket for the next flight to Los Angeles, let's go to the counter and get it changed." "What, but?" "Hurry, it's almost boarding time." I helped her up and led her to the airline counter. "Excuse me, could we change the name on this ticket, please?" "Sure. This is for the lady on the wait list, right?" "Please hold on a moment." The counter staff, who seemed concerned about her, proceeded with the change without any hesitation. "Wait, what about you then?" "It's okay for me, but you need to go now. To avoid any regrets." Thank you so much." She cried and thanked me over and over. I simply shook my head gently as I handed her the changed ticket. "Go to your daughter." "Thank you." "Oh, I'm Elizabeth, by the way. May I have your business card too?" "Yes, of course." We exchanged business cards after the fact. Her name is Elizabeth. So, Ken. I will never forget this kindness. Once things settle down, I would like to properly thank you. No need to think about thanking me. Just take care, and I hope for your daughter's safe recovery. Thank you so much." I watched her look back and thank me again and again until she was out of sight. Wow, what did I just do? As the plane I was supposed to be on took off, I watched from the lounge inside. Strangely, I felt no regret. Shifting my focus, I called the TV station I was supposed to meet. "Hello, this is Ken." "Hi Ken, how's everything going?" "Is your flight on time?" "Actually, about that." I explained to the TV station contact that I had missed my flight. "That's unfortunate, that puts us in a bit of a bind. I'm truly sorry for this sudden issue. Apologies are not necessary. I understand that there must have been some circumstances. However, we will need to reschedule our tie-in discussion. I will contact you again once it's settled, but please be aware that there is a possibility that the project may be cancelled. Yes, of course. I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience. After closing the conversation respectfully, I hung up the phone after a pause. Alright, now I'm going back to the office and get in trouble. The workday was far from over. With renewed determination, I decided to head back to the office from the airport. Ken, do you even realize what you've done? Upon reporting back at the office, Steve shouted at me, driven by anger. It was a tie-in with the TV station. To miss such a big opportunity. What were you thinking? I'm terribly sorry. And what's this I hear about you giving your ticket to someone in trouble? Ken, what did you go to the airport for? It's about work. Don't mix personal matters with work. You're absolutely right. I have no excuse. Really? I wonder what you were thinking. This time, I was fully at fault. In front of an unappeasable Steve, I continued to apologize. Look, Ken. Yes. I'm going to report this to Mr. Hill as well. Be prepared. Yes, I understand. Alright, that's enough. Ken, just go home for today. I can't even focus on my work when I see your face. Yes. I'm very sorry for this trouble. After apologizing one last time, I began to pack up to leave. My colleagues looked at me with concern, but no one spoke up. I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused everyone. I'll be leaving now. After one more apology at the exit, I left the department. The next day, I was summoned to the president's office room first thing in the morning. It seemed my blunder had reached Mr. Hill sooner than I expected. With resolve, I knocked on the door of the president's office room. Mr. Hill, this is Ken. Come in. Excuse me. I entered the president's office. Approaching Mr. Hill, who was resting his elbows on his desk with a stern expression, I apologized deeply. Mr. Hill. I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience I caused. You admit that what you did was wrong? Yes. Then why did you do it? Do you want to tarnish the reputation of my company? I didn't intend for that. Then what was your intention? That is. Wondering if he would understand if I explained the situation. Holding on to a sliver of hope, I recounted the entire incident at the airport. Ken, was it? Yes. Aren't you misunderstanding something? Our company isn't a charity. I apologize deeply. If only apologies were enough. Unfortunately, they aren't. We don't need someone with your kind of mentality in our company. Mr. Hill handed me a document. It was a notice of termination. Complete your handover within the time frame specified here. Make sure you do at least that much properly. Mr. Hill stood up, placed a hand on my shoulder, and gave it a light pat. I understand. I will accept this decision with respect. It seemed there was no room for excuses. I left the president's office room. So it has come to this. The outcome could be considered the worst, but I had no regrets. This was the right thing to do, wasn't it? Feeling strangely refreshed, I began to reminisce about the past. It was a while after I had come to New York for my university studies. Ken. Calm down, just calm down and listen. A sudden call from my mother. What? The reality she revealed darkened everything before me. My sister, who had been hospitalized due to illness, had passed away. How could this be? She looked fine when I went home for the holidays. Her condition suddenly worsened, just a moment ago. Until just a moment ago, she was alive and well. But now. Mom. I didn't know what to say to my mother, who was sobbing uncontrollably on the other end of the phone. Hey, let me talk to Ken. Hey, Ken, can you hear me? Dad. Ken, can you come back home right away? Yeah. I'll head there right after this. Please do. Ken. Yeah, what? In her last moments, she said she wanted to see you. I see. I'm sorry. No, don't apologize. Just come back safely. Yeah. I hung up the phone, feeling dazed. When I lived back home, I visited her daily, but those visits became fewer after I moved away. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Tears started to overflow. In the end, I couldn't do anything for my sister as a brother. I deeply regretted not being able to be there for her in her final moments. Perhaps that's why. Maybe I saw a reflection of my past self in the desperate woman I encountered at the airport yesterday. I hope Elizabeth is okay. I had no regrets about giving my plane ticket to Elizabeth. I hope she made it in time. And I hoped that her daughter would be saved. I was filled with these thoughts. It's better not to have such regrets. Hoping that her tears would turn into a smile, I went back to my department to start the handover process. Almost a month later, I had successfully handed over all the clients and tasks I was responsible for and approached my last day at the company without any issues. Thank you for everything. Hey. Ken, make sure you say goodbye to Mr. Hill too. Yes. I replied to Steve, who spoke gruffly without looking at me, and left the department. Then, I headed straight to the president's office room. Today was my last day. I had no regrets left. Mr. Hill, excuse me. I entered the room. As usual, Mr. Hill was seated at his desk. Today marks my resignation. I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience I have caused. Indeed. Ideally, I would want to sue you for damages. Be grateful that I chose not to. Mr. Hill exaggeratedly sighed as he spoke. Moreover, you've essentially thrown your life away. Pathetic. I wonder what kind of upbringing leads a person to behave like this. My parents have nothing to do with this. Ha, we'll see about that. Giving your business trip ticket to a stranger? Where does that even make sense? Mr. Hill slammed his hand on the desk, raising his voice. I continued to apologize silently. Listen well, since you seem unaware, let me tell you something in lieu of a farewell gift. In business, nothing is more important than the company. People like you who don't understand that deserve to be fired. I wasn't particularly shocked by his tirade. In fact, Mr. Hill's words made me feel like seeing the true nature of this company, and I even felt relieved to be fired. Just as I was about to retort, I'm better off without this kind of company. Excuse me. Steve burst into the room, looking flustered. What is it now, making such a racket? Sorry, Mr. Hill. But it's urgent. You need to check the news right now. What? The news? Pushed by Steve's urgency, an irritated Mr. Hill turned on the TV in the office. The screen showed a breaking news segment with a heartwarming story. So, this person gave you the ticket? Yes. Thanks to him, I was able to make it to my daughter in time. I recognized the voice and looked up at the TV screen. There was Elizabeth holding a little girl alongside a man. Elizabeth. Surprised, I exclaimed, and Mr. Hill and Steve, too, seemed shocked. Their eyes were on the middle-aged man next to Elizabeth. That man, he's... Yes, that's him. Ah. I've met him a few times through TV-related work. He used to be a producer at a New York TV station, Thomas. Mr. Hill swallowed hard. The TV showed Elizabeth smiling and responding to the questions. This gentleman from the company gave me the ticket. Thanks to him, I was able to rush to my daughter. That's the company currently expanding those popular gyms, right? I hear your father has connections with this company? The microphone then turned to the man next to Elizabeth. It seems that he is Elizabeth's father. Yes, that's right. It turns out he was scheduled to come to my company for business discussions. What an incredible coincidence. Absolutely. But he didn't know that. I hope everyone understands through this news report that, despite the recent controversies, that company has such wonderful employees. Beside him, Elizabeth nodded and smiled affirmatively. As long as they have employees like him, I'm confident that company will remain secure. Eventually, all the negative rumors will disappear. Elizabeth said with a radiant smile, hugging the little girl. I'll come to thank him soon. Please wait for me." With that, she waved gently, and the screen switched to a commercial. Mr. Hill. An awkward silence filled the president's office. After some mumbled discussions out of my hearing range, both Mr. Hill and Steve stood before me and apologized deeply. "Sorry, Ken. We mean it, please forgive us. Please have mercy." Forgive? For what exactly? Somewhat taken aback by their desperate demeanor, I urged them to continue, curious about what they would say next. "We had no idea that the woman you helped was Thomas's daughter. We're truly sorry for speaking out of turn. But can we please pretend your dismissal never happened?" Ken. Mr. Hill is going this far. Right? You must be relieved not to be fired, right? It was an astounding flip-flop. Clearly, they were worried about the repercussions of my firing if Thomas found out. Stunned by their sudden change in attitude, I looked down at them as Mr. Hill gave a sheepish smile. "How about it? If you wish, I can offer you any position. You could even replace him if you'd like." Mr. Hill. Both Mr. Hill and a desperately clinging Steve were trying to butter me up. As I watched this spectacle unfold, I let out an exaggerated sigh. I've already been fired, so it doesn't concern me. But. Wait a minute. As Mr. Hill and Steve tried to cling to my feet, I dodged them quickly and, standing at the door, I said with a smile, "Well then, thank you for everything." I then left the president's office. I could hear Mr. Hill and Steve shouting something from inside, but as a fired employee, it was no longer my concern. Leaving the company with a clear conscience the next day, I received a call from Elizabeth. She was in New York and wanted to thank me over a meal together. I headed to the designated place, a bit nervous. It was a restaurant inside a luxury hotel I had never entered before. "Ken, thank you so much for that time. My daughter is safe and well now, thanks to you," Elizabeth greeted me warmly. "I'm glad to hear that. I saw her on TV, she's very cute and looks a lot like you." "Oh Ken, you flatter me," she laughed. "Ha ha, I hope your husband won't get mad at me for saying that. Actually, I'm single. I got divorced before my daughter was born." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." "Don't worry about it." She chuckled lightly, sipping her wine. "Ken, did you take the day off today?" "Well, about that. I got fired from the company." "What?" "Sorry, after all that praise on TV. That's terrible." Do you have your next job lined up?" "Not yet, I'm still looking." "Then, would you consider coming to work at the TV station where my father works?" Elizabeth's eyes sparkled as she looked at me earnestly. "It would be in Los Angeles. But I promise you won't regret it." "Really? Are you sure?" "Absolutely." "Oh, let me just call my dad to confirm." With that, Elizabeth quickly took out her mobile phone. Through tears and laughter. In just our second meeting, I felt like I had seen many sides of Elizabeth. "Ken, you're very welcome to join us." After hanging up, Elizabeth showed me a broad, genuine smile. Her smile was more beautiful and endearing than any I had seen from her before. Time passed. And following Elizabeth's introduction, I transitioned to a job at the Los Angeles TV station where her father worked as a producer. "Really? Firing a man like you? That company's finished." Upon learning about my dismissal from my previous company, Elizabeth's father, using his authority, canceled a collaboration deal that was nearly finalized with them. Well, since I was the one who secured and was advancing that deal, it was only natural. Meanwhile, my former company, burdened by accumulating customer complaints and a surge in cancellations, spread bad rumors and now seemed on the verge of bankruptcy. Well, it feels like it was bound to happen. Yes, it's unfortunate. Don't worry about it, Elizabeth. Yeah. Seeing Elizabeth looking downcast, I smiled gently at her. After that, Elizabeth and I, spending more time together, are now in a relationship considering marriage. "Elizabeth, can you listen to what I've been thinking?" "Yes, what is it?" "I've been thinking, maybe it was fate that we met that day." Fate? I'm glad you smiled, Elizabeth. I love your smile the most. Ha, Ken, you're so smooth. We looked at each other and laughed playfully. I vowed to make her, her precious daughter, and any future children we might have, happy for the rest of our lives. For my sister I couldn't see that day, I would surely do so, forever.